The bathroom light felt too bright as Harrison Bennett knelt beside the tub, carefully washing his 5-year-old daughter Sophie's hair. That's when he saw them. 3 dark purple bruises wrapped around her small upper arm like fingerprints. His hands froze in the soapy water. "Sophie, baby, what happened to your arm?" he asked, keeping his voice gentle even though his heart was pounding. Sophie's brown eyes went wide and she pulled her arm against her chest. "I fell down," she whispered, not meeting his gaze. "Where did you fall, sweetheart?" "In the playroom." Her voice got even quieter. "Please don't tell Lauren. I was being clumsy." That phrase, "don't tell Lauren," hit Harrison like a punch to the chest. His daughter was afraid. His sweet, giggly little girl who used to run through the house singing was now afraid in her own home. He finished the bath in silence, his mind racing. After he tucked Sophie into bed and kissed her forehead, he walked down the hall to check on his 3-year-old son Thomas. The little boy was already asleep, his small chest rising and falling peacefully. Harrison pulled back the lightweight blanket to adjust it and saw them. More bruises. On Thomas's wrist. Finger-shaped marks that made Harrison's blood run cold. His children were being hurt. In his own home. While he was at the office working 12-hour days, someone was hurting his babies. Harrison walked downstairs, each step feeling heavier than the last. He found his fiancée Lauren in the living room, perfectly posed on the white sofa with a glass of wine. She looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine with her blonde hair styled in perfect waves, her cream-colored dress without a single wrinkle. She'd moved into his mansion 6 months ago after he'd proposed, and everyone said how lucky he was. A successful businessman finding love again 2 years after his wife's death. "Lauren, we need to talk about the kids," Harrison said, sitting across from her. She smiled at him, that dazzling smile that had first caught his attention at a charity event. "Of course, darling. What about them?" "Sophie has bruises on her arm. Thomas has them on his wrist. Do you know anything about that?" Lauren's expression shifted to concern so quickly it almost seemed rehearsed. "Oh no, really? I saw Sophie take a tumble yesterday near the stairs. She must have grabbed the railing. And Thomas, you know how rough he plays with his toy trucks. He's always banging into things. Sophie said she fell in the playroom." "Did she?" "Well, she fell twice then. You know how active children are, Harrison. They're always getting little bumps and bruises." Lauren reached over and placed her hand on his knee. "You worry too much. It's sweet, but they're fine." "Really?" Harrison wanted to believe her. He wanted everything to be fine. But something in his gut, some instinct he couldn't name, told him to pay attention. He'd built a successful real estate company by trusting his instincts about people, and right now every instinct was screaming that something was wrong. That night he couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every interaction he'd witnessed between Lauren and the children over the past few months. He realized with growing horror that he couldn't remember seeing them really play together. He couldn't remember hearing Lauren laugh with them. Whenever he came home, she was always sweet to Sophie and Thomas, but the children never ran to her the way they used to run to their mother. The next morning at breakfast, Harrison watched carefully. Lauren served the children their food with a bright smile. "Eat your oatmeal, Sophie. It's good for you." Sophie picked up her spoon with her left hand instead of her right. The hand that didn't have bruises. "Use your right hand, please." "We don't eat like animals," Lauren said, her voice still sweet but with an edge that made Thomas flinch. Harrison felt sick. "She can use whichever hand she wants," he said firmly. Lauren's smile never wavered. "Of course. I just want to help her develop good manners." After breakfast, Harrison called his office and told his assistant he'd be working from home more often. He spent the day in his home office but kept his door open, listening. The house seemed normal. He heard the housekeeper Mrs. Rodriguez vacuuming. He heard one of the maids, a young woman whose name he couldn't remember, talking softly to the children in the playroom. He heard Lauren on the phone with her friends, laughing about some restaurant. But he didn't hear his children laughing. Not once. That evening he made a decision that would change everything. He was going to find out the truth no matter what it took. If Lauren was hurting his children, he needed proof. He needed to see what happened when he wasn't around. But he couldn't just install cameras. That felt like a violation, and besides, if Lauren suspected something, she'd hide her true behavior. No, he needed to become invisible in his own home. He needed to be there without anyone knowing who he really was. Harrison Bennett was going to disappear, and a humble gardener would take his place. He spent that entire night planning. He called his most trusted attorney and friend, Robert Chin, at midnight. "Robert, I need your help with something unusual," Harrison said. "It's midnight, Harrison. This better be important." "It is. I think Lauren is hurting my kids. I need to go undercover in my own house to find out the truth. There was a long pause. You're serious? Completely. Tell me everything. Harrison explained the bruises, the fear in Sophie's eyes, the way Thomas flinched. Robert listened without interrupting. Okay, Robert said finally. Here's what we're going to do. I'll help you create a fake identity. We'll say you're away on an extended business trip to the London office. I'll be your only contact. But Harrison, if you find evidence of abuse, you call the police immediately. Don't try to handle this yourself. I will. I promise. I just need to know what's really happening. They worked out the details over the next 2 days. Harrison would leave for his business trip on Monday morning. By Monday afternoon, a new gardener would show up looking for work. The current gardener had conveniently accepted a job offer in another state, a position Robert's firm had arranged along with a generous signing bonus. Harrison looked at himself in the mirror Sunday night. Tomorrow he would become someone else. Tomorrow he would discover the truth about what was happening to his children. He thought about Sophie's bruises, about Thomas's flinch, about the silence where laughter should be. Whatever he found, whoever was responsible, he would make sure his children were safe. That was all that mattered. He just didn't know yet that the person who would help him save his children was someone he'd barely noticed before. Someone who was already risking everything to protect Sophie and Thomas. Someone whose courage would change his life forever. The drive back down the mountain road was easier in daylight. She could see the beauty of the landscape, the way the morning sun filtered through the trees, the glimpses of valleys far below. When she reached the town, she drove slowly down Main Street, looking for what she needed. The grocery store was small, family-owned by the look of it. Inside, the aisles were narrow but well-stocked. Brielle calculated carefully, choosing bread, peanut butter, crackers, canned soup, and fruit. She added toilet paper and soap to her basket, watching the total climb. At the register, the cashier, a woman in her 50s with gray-streaked hair, smiled warmly. "You must be Dorothy's niece," she said. "I heard you were coming to town." "I'm Susan." Word traveled fast in small towns, apparently. Brielle managed a smile. "Yes, I'm Brielle. Nice to meet you." Dorothy was a wonderful woman. Taught my daughter in 3rd grade. We were all sad to lose her. Susan bagged the groceries carefully. "If you need anything, you just ask. Folks around here take care of each other." Brielle paid, her cash supply now down to $140. She thanked Susan and carried her bags back to the car. As she loaded them in the trunk, she noticed a man watching her from across the street. He was tall, with dark skin and broad shoulders, wearing jeans and a faded blue t-shirt. When their eyes met, he gave a small nod, then walked away. She tried to shake off the weird feeling and got back in the car. On the way out of town, she spotted a library and pulled in. Inside, she asked if she could charge her phone, and the librarian kindly directed her to a table with outlets. While her phone charged, Brielle used one of the library computers to search for information about getting electricity and water working at the cabin. What she found was discouraging. Getting power turned on would require an electrician to inspect the wiring first, and that would cost money she didn't have. The water seemed to be from a well, which was good, but she'd need to have it tested to make sure it was safe to drink. More money. She sat back in the chair, fighting down panic. She had a place to live, which was more than she'd have in 6 weeks if she'd stayed in the city. But without electricity, without money for repairs, how could she manage? How could she prepare for the baby? Her phone, fully charged now, buzzed with another text from Helen at the church. "We're having a community dinner tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Please come. Everyone would love to meet you. We can help with anything you need." Brielle hesitated, then replied that she would try to come. She wasn't used to accepting help from strangers, had learned through hard experience that most offers came with strings attached. But what choice did she have? She drove back to the cabin as the afternoon sun climbed higher. The gravel road seemed a little less rough now that she knew what to expect. When she pulled into the clearing, she was startled to see a truck parked near the cabin. Her heart raced. Someone was here. A man emerged from around the side of the cabin. It was the same man who'd been watching her in town. Up close, she could see he was probably in his early 30s, with kind eyes and an easy smile. "Hey, sorry if I startled you," he said, holding up his hands in a peaceful gesture. "I'm Terrence Montgomery. I own the property next to this one about half a mile through the trees. I saw you arrive yesterday and wanted to introduce myself." Brielle stayed by her car, wary. "How did you know I was here?" "Small town. Word gets around." He smiled. "Also, I could see your car from my place. I walked over to check if everything was okay. I was friends with your aunt. She was a good neighbor." Something in his tone was genuine. Brielle relaxed slightly. I'm Brielle. I know. Dorothy talked about you. She was proud of you. Terrence gestured toward the cabin. I was just checking the water pump and the electrical panel. I know this place has been empty for a while. I hope you don't mind. Did you find anything wrong? She walked closer, still cautious but curious. The well pump works, which is good news. But the electrical panel is old, probably hasn't been updated in 40 years. You'll need an electrician to look at it before you can get power turned on safely. He paused. I actually am an electrician. Well, I'm a contractor. I do electrical work, plumbing, construction. I could help you out if you want. Here it was. The offer with strings. Brielle straightened her shoulders. I can't pay you. I don't have money for that. Terrence shook his head. I'm not asking for money. Your aunt helped my family years ago when we had nothing. When my dad died, she made sure my mom had firewood all winter. She brought us food. She tutored me for free when I was failing math in high school. His expression grew serious. I owe her. Helping you would be a way to pay that back. Brielle wanted to refuse, wanted to say she could handle it herself. But standing there, 6 months pregnant and nearly broke, she knew that was foolish pride talking. Aunt Dorothy had accepted help when she needed it. Maybe that's what she was supposed to learn here. Okay, she said quietly. Thank you. I would appreciate any help you can give. His smile widened. Great. I've got some supplies in my truck. Let me grab them and we can get started. First thing is to check that wiring and see what we're working with. As Terrence walked back to his truck, Brielle felt something shift inside her. Maybe the relatives had been wrong. Maybe this cabin wasn't worthless. And maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as alone as she'd thought. Terrence returned with a toolbox and a large flashlight. He moved with the confidence of someone who knew his way around old buildings, stepping carefully across the porch boards and ducking slightly as he entered the cabin. Brielle followed, watching as he opened the electrical panel beside the front door. This is going to take some work, he said, shining his flashlight into the panel box. The wiring is ancient, but it's not as bad as it could be. The main issue is that several circuits are corroded, and the breaker box itself should probably be replaced. But the good news is it's fixable. How long would it take? Brielle asked, leaning against the doorframe. To do it safely? Maybe 2 full days of work. I can start tomorrow if you want. I've got a project finishing up this week, but I can spare the time. He closed the panel and turned to face her. In the meantime, you can't stay here without power. It gets cold at night, even in summer. I slept in my car last night. I can do that again. Terrence frowned. You're pregnant. You can't sleep in your car. He seemed to consider something, then said, Look, I have a guest cabin on my property. It's small, just 1 room, but it has electricity and heat. You could stay there until we get this place fixed up. Brielle's instinct was to refuse. She didn't know this man, didn't know his motivations. But the thought of another night cramped in her car, of her back aching and the baby pressing against her ribs, made her reconsider. Besides, if he'd wanted to hurt her, he could have done so already when she arrived and found him here. Are you sure? She asked. Have you ever wondered what you would do if your own instincts told you something was terribly wrong, but everyone else said everything was fine? Would you trust yourself enough to take action, even if it meant turning your whole life upside down? If this story touches your heart, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to trust your gut feeling against all logic? Monday morning came with clear blue skies. Harrison stood in his walk-in closet, looking at the clothes he'd assembled for his disguise. Work boots worn at the edges. Faded jeans with dirt stains. A green plaid shirt that had seen better days. A baseball cap. He'd bought them all from a thrift store 2 towns over, paying cash so there'd be no credit card trail. The hardest part was the makeup. He'd watched tutorial videos on how to age his appearance. Gray spray for his dark brown hair. A fake beard he'd ordered online that looked surprisingly real. Reading glasses with plain lenses. He studied himself in the mirror. He looked 20 years older, weathered by outdoor work and sun. His own mother wouldn't recognize him. Harrison packed a small duffel bag with his real clothes and important documents, then hid it in the back of his closet. He walked down the hallway to the children's rooms one last time before leaving. Sophie was already awake, playing quietly with her dolls. Daddy has to go on a work trip, Princess, he said, kneeling beside her bed. I'll be gone for a few weeks. Sophie's face fell. Do you have to go? I do, baby. But I'll call you every night, okay? And I'll bring you back something special. He hugged her tight, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo. Thomas was still sleeping, so Harrison just kissed his forehead gently and whispered, "Daddy loves you." Lauren was waiting downstairs by the front door, looking perfect as always in a blue dress. "I'll miss you," she said, kissing his cheek. "Don't work too hard. Take good care of my kids," Harrison said, watching her eyes carefully. "Of course. They're in excellent hands. You know I love them like they're my own." Harrison nodded, picked up his briefcase and walked out to his car. He drove to Robert's office downtown, where he changed into his gardener clothes in the private bathroom. Robert had arranged everything, including a beat-up truck registered to Henry Walsh, complete with gardening equipment in the back. "You sure about this?" Robert asked, handing him the keys. "I've never been more sure of anything. Your phone is set up with a new number under the Henry Walsh name. You've got my direct line programmed in. Call me every day, even if it's just to say you're okay." Harrison looked at his reflection in Robert's office window. Henry Walsh stared back at him. "Let's do this." He drove the truck across town, taking the long route to give Lauren time to settle into her day. When he pulled up to the service entrance at the back of his mansion at 2 in the afternoon, his hands were sweating despite the cool air. Mrs. Rodriguez answered his knock. She was a sturdy woman in her 50s with kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a neat bun. She'd worked for Harrison's family for 15 years, since before Sophie was born. "Can I help you?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. My name is Henry Walsh. I heard you folks might need a gardener. Your previous one recommended I come by." Mrs. Rodriguez looked him up and down, taking in his worn clothes and weathered appearance. "You have experience?" 30 years, ma'am. Worked on estates all over the state. I can do everything from basic lawn care to advanced landscaping. I'm reliable, quiet, and I keep to myself." "The pay isn't great," Mrs. Rodriguez warned. "Mr. Bennett handles all the budget decisions and he's away on business." "That's fine. I just need steady work." She studied him for another moment, then nodded. "All right. Let me show you around. You'll start with the back gardens. They need serious attention. The flower beds are overgrown, and the hedges need trimming." As Mrs. Rodriguez led him through the back grounds, Harrison saw his home through new eyes. The gardens did need work. He'd been so focused on business and the children that he'd let things slide. The roses needed pruning. Weeds poked through the stone pathways. The hedges that bordered the property were growing wild. "The children's playroom is in that wing," Mrs. Rodriguez said, pointing to a section of the house with large windows. "Please be mindful of noise during nap time, which is from 1 to 3. Harrison nodded, his heart racing. Those windows. He could see into the playroom from the garden. This might actually work. "You'll meet the rest of the staff at dinner," Mrs. Rodriguez continued. "We all eat together in the kitchen at 6. Miss Lauren usually eats in the dining room by herself or with friends." "Miss Lauren?" "Mr. Bennett's fiancée. She manages the household while he's away." Something in Mrs. Rodriguez's tone made Harrison pause, but he couldn't quite read her expression. "And the children?" "Miss Sophie is 5, Master Thomas is 3. Sweet children. They eat dinner at 5:30. Mrs. Rodriguez's face softened when she talked about them. They walked past the garden shed, a small building Harrison had barely noticed before. Mrs. Rodriguez unlocked it and showed him the tools, the riding mower, bags of fertilizer and other supplies. "You can take your breaks in here. There's a small refrigerator and a chair. Bathroom is through that door at the back of the main house by the laundry room." As Mrs. Rodriguez turned to leave, a young woman came hurrying down the path from the house. Harrison's breath caught. She was beautiful, with rich brown skin that glowed in the afternoon sunlight, natural curly hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and expressive dark eyes that seemed to hold both kindness and worry. She wore a simple gray uniform dress and white sneakers. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I'm sorry to interrupt," the young woman said, slightly breathless. "Miss Lauren is asking for fresh flowers in the dining room." "Of course, Destiny. This is Henry, our new gardener." "Henry, this is Destiny Turner, one of our housemaids." Destiny looked at Harrison, and for a split second he felt like she was really seeing him, seeing past the disguise. Then she smiled politely. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Walsh." "Just Henry, please." "Nice to meet you too, miss." She nodded and turned to go, but Mrs. Rodriguez called after her. "Destiny, make sure you eat something. You've been running around all day." "I will, I promise," Destiny called back, already hurrying toward the house. "That girl works too hard," Mrs. Rodriguez said, shaking her head. "She takes extra shifts whenever she can. Sends most of her money back home to help her little sister with college." Harrison felt a pang of guilt. He'd never paid attention to the household staff beyond a polite greeting. He didn't even know their names until now. She seems dedicated. She is. And wonderful with the children. They adore her. Mrs. Rodriguez paused, then added carefully, she's very protective of them. There was something in that statement, some weight that Harrison couldn't quite interpret. But before he could ask, Mrs. Rodriguez was already heading back to the house. Get started on the south garden first. I'll see you at dinner. Harrison stood alone in the garden, looking up at his own home. Somewhere inside, his children were going about their day. Somewhere inside, Lauren was doing whatever she did when he wasn't there. And somewhere inside, a young woman named Destiny was working hard, sending money home, caring about his kids. He picked up a pair of pruning shears and got to work on the nearest rosebush. The thorns pricked his fingers through his gloves. The sun beat down on his back. His muscles, used to sitting at a desk all day, protested at the physical labor. But Harrison barely noticed. His eyes kept drifting to those playroom windows, waiting, watching, dreading what he might see. The truth was somewhere in this house. And he was going to find it, no matter how long it took or how much it hurt to discover. He just hoped he wasn't too late to save his children from whatever nightmare they were living. The afternoon sun was hot on Harrison's back as he worked his way through the overgrown rosebushes. His hands, soft from years of office work, were already blistering despite the gloves. But he kept working, keeping his head down while his eyes constantly flicked toward the playroom windows. At 3:30, movement caught his attention. The playroom door opened and Destiny walked in with Sophie and Thomas. Even from this distance, Harrison could see how the children's faces lit up when they saw her. Destiny knelt down to their level, saying something that made Sophie smile. She pulled out a picture book and settled onto the floor with them, Thomas climbing into her lap while Sophie snuggled against her side. Harrison's chest tightened. This stranger showed his children more warmth in 30 seconds than he'd seen Lauren show them in months. He moved closer to the window, pretending to examine a nearby hedge that needed trimming. The window was open a crack, and he could hear Destiny's voice drifting out. Should we read about the dinosaurs or the ocean animals? She asked. Dinosaurs? Thomas said immediately. Ocean, Sophie countered. How about we read one chapter of each? Destiny suggested. Fair. Both children nodded happily. Harrison watched as she opened the dinosaur book, doing different voices for each creature. Sophie giggled at her T-Rex voice. Thomas clapped his hands when she made roaring sounds. For 20 minutes, the playroom was filled with laughter and joy. Harrison felt tears prick his eyes. This was what his children's lives should be like. This happiness, this lightness. When had he last heard Sophie laugh like that? Then the playroom door opened again and Lauren walked in. Harrison saw the change happen instantly. Sophie and Thomas went quiet, their bodies tensing. Destiny looked up, and something flickered across her face before she smoothed it into a polite expression. The children need to wash up for dinner, Lauren said. Her voice was pleasant but somehow cold. Of course, Miss Lauren, Destiny said, closing the book. Come on, you two. Let's go wash those hands. I want to finish the story, Sophie said quietly. We'll finish it later, sweetie, Destiny promised. No, we won't, Lauren said, taking the book from Destiny's hands. It's time to move on to other activities. You coddle them too much, Destiny. Children need structure, not constant entertainment. Destiny's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Yes, Miss Lauren. Harrison watched his daughter's face fall. He watched Thomas reach for Destiny's hand as they walked toward the bathroom. He watched Lauren's expression the moment the children's backs were turned. The pleasant mask slipped, replaced by something cold and irritated. Lauren tossed the book onto a shelf carelessly, then noticed the window was open. She walked over and slammed it shut, her movements sharp with annoyance. Harrison quickly bent over the hedge, pretending to be absorbed in his work. When he glanced up again, Lauren was gone. But the image of her real face, the one she wore when she thought no one was watching, was burned into his mind. He worked until 6, then headed to the kitchen for dinner as Mrs. Rodriguez had instructed. The kitchen was large and warm, with a big wooden table in the corner where the staff gathered. Mrs. Rodriguez was stirring something that smelled like chicken soup. An older man sat at the table reading a newspaper. Henry, come in, Mrs. Rodriguez called. Everyone, this is our new gardener. Henry, this is Antonio, our driver. Antonio was a lean man in his 60s with silver hair and a friendly smile. Welcome. How was your first day? Good, thank you. Lots to do out there. That's for sure. Previous gardener let things go the last few months. He was getting too old for the work. A younger woman bustled in carrying a stack of folded linens. She had warm brown eyes and a quick smile. Hi, I'm Rosa Martinez, the other housemaid. You met Destiny earlier. Nice to meet you. Rosa set down the linens and started helping Mrs. Rodriguez set the table. Destiny's upstairs with the children. She usually eats with them. That girl, Mrs. Rodriguez said, shaking her head with obvious affection. She should take a break. She won't though, Rosa said. Not while Miss Lauren is around. There was a brief, uncomfortable silence. Harrison pretended not to notice, taking a seat at the table. But his mind was racing. The staff clearly had opinions about Lauren, but they were being careful not to voice them in front of a stranger. Mrs. Rodriguez served the soup along with fresh bread. As they ate, Harrison listened to the casual conversation. Antonio talked about a difficult drive downtown. Rosa mentioned needing to restock the cleaning supplies. Mrs. Rodriguez discussed the menu for the rest of the week. Then Rosa's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and frowned. It's Destiny. She's asking if I can come help with something. Go ahead, Mrs. Rodriguez said. We're almost done here anyway. Rosa hurried out. Harrison wanted desperately to follow to see what was happening upstairs, but he forced himself to stay seated and finish his soup. 10 minutes later, Rosa came back. Her face was tight with controlled anger. Mrs. Rodriguez took one look at her and ushered Antonio and Harrison out of the kitchen. Thank you for dinner. Antonio, can you show Henry where he'll be parking the work truck? Antonio seemed to understand something was wrong. He nodded and led Harrison out through the back door. Once they were outside, he said quietly, "Don't mind the tension. Things have been difficult around here lately." How so? Antonio looked at him carefully as if trying to decide how much to say. Mr. Bennett is a good man. A great employer. But since Miss Lauren moved in, the atmosphere has changed. She's demanding. Critical. Especially with the housemaids. And the children? Antonio's expression darkened. We're not supposed to discuss the family with outsiders. But if you're going to work here, you'll see things. Just know that some of us are doing our best to keep those kids safe. The words hung in the air. Harrison wanted to ask more, to demand details, but he couldn't break his cover. Instead, he just nodded. I understand. Good. Keep your head down and do your work. Don't get involved in household drama. But Harrison was already involved. He just couldn't tell Antonio that. That night, Harrison drove the work truck to a small motel room Robert had rented for him under the Henry Walsh name. He peeled off his fake beard, washed the gray from his hair, and called Robert. How did it go? Robert asked immediately. Harrison described everything he'd seen and heard. The staff is being careful, but I can tell they know something is wrong. There's a maid, Destiny Turner. The children love her. Lauren seems to resent her for it. Be careful, Harrison. Don't blow your cover on the first day. I won't. But Robert, I saw the way my kids tensed up when Lauren walked in. I saw the way they relaxed with Destiny. Something is definitely wrong. Then keep watching. Gather evidence. But don't do anything rash. After hanging up, Harrison lay in the unfamiliar bed staring at the ceiling. He thought about Sophie's giggle when Destiny did her dinosaur voices. He thought about Thomas climbing into her lap so trustingly. He thought about the way Lauren had slammed that window shut, irritation radiating from every movement. Tomorrow he would watch more carefully. Tomorrow he would position himself where he could see and hear everything. Tomorrow he would start uncovering the truth. Harrison woke at 5 in the morning, his body aching from the unfamiliar physical labor. He showered, reapplied his disguise, and headed back to the mansion before dawn. The early morning air was cool and fresh, and the streets were nearly empty. He parked the work truck in its spot and grabbed his tools. According to the schedule Mrs. Rodriguez had given him, his priority today was trimming the hedges along the east side of the house. The hedges that ran directly beneath the playroom and dining room windows. Perfect. By 7, he was deep into the work, the steady snip-snip of his pruning shears creating a rhythmic background noise. He could hear the household waking up. Footsteps on the floors above. Water running. Voices calling good morning to each other. At 7:30 he heard a familiar voice. Good morning, sunshine. Did you sleep well? Sophie's small voice answered. Yes, Destiny. Harrison shifted position and glanced up at the dining room window. He could see them inside. Destiny was setting out breakfast while Sophie sat at the table in her pajamas, her hair messy from sleep. Where's Thomas? Destiny asked. Still sleeping. He always sleeps late. Just like your daddy then? Sophie smiled. Daddy says I'm the early bird. You definitely are. Are you hungry? A little. Destiny set a plate in front of Sophie. Scrambled eggs, toast, and some fruit. Eat what you can, sweetie. No pressure. Harrison watched as Destiny sat down beside his daughter, not hovering or forcing, just being present. Sophie picked up her fork with her left hand again, and Harrison noticed Destiny didn't say anything about it. She just let Sophie eat however was comfortable. They chatted about Sophie's favorite cartoon while she ate. Destiny asked questions and listened to the answers like Sophie's opinions really mattered. The warmth between them was so natural, so genuine. Then Lauren appeared in the doorway wearing a red silk robe. "Sophie, you need to use your right hand. We've discussed this." Sophie's smile vanished. She switched hands even though Harrison could see it was awkward and uncomfortable. "And sit up straighter. Ladies don't slouch." Sophie straightened, her little shoulders tense. Destiny stood up quickly. "Can I get you some breakfast, Miss Lauren?" "No. I'll eat later." "Are those eggs from the organic carton?" "Yes, Miss Lauren. They better be. Last time you used the regular eggs and I specifically said organic only." "I remember. These are organic." Lauren walked closer, looking at Sophie's plate with a critical eye. "Why did you give her so much? She'll never finish it. You're wasteful, Destiny. She can eat what she wants and leave the rest." "No, she can't. Children need to learn not to waste food." "Sophie, you'll sit there until every bite is gone." Sophie looked down at her plate, her bottom lip trembling. "But I'm full." "Then you shouldn't have taken so much. Eat." Harrison's hands clenched around the pruning shears. He forced himself to stay still, to keep watching. Destiny's voice was gentle but firm. "Miss Lauren, she's only 5. It's normal for children to have small appetites in the morning." Lauren turned to stare at Destiny, her eyes cold. "Did I ask for your opinion on how to raise children?" "No, but I just thought." "You're not paid to think. You're paid to follow instructions. Sophie will finish her breakfast. All of it. Or there will be no lunch." Sophie's tears started falling silently. Destiny looked torn, her hands twisting together. Finally she said, "Maybe I could put some aside for later? If she gets hungry before lunch?" "No. She eats it now or she learns a lesson about waste." Lauren turned and walked out of the room, her robe swishing behind her. The moment she was gone, Destiny knelt beside Sophie's chair. "Hey, it's okay. Let's make this fun. How about we pretend each bite is a different animal? This bite can be an elephant and this one can be a mouse. Which one do you think you can eat?" Through her tears, Sophie pointed to a small piece of toast. "Mouse. Perfect. One mouse bite coming up." Harrison watched as Destiny patiently, lovingly helped his daughter eat, turning a punishment into a game. His heart was breaking and filling at the same time. Breaking because his child was being treated this way. Filling because someone was there to soften the cruelty. After breakfast, Destiny took Sophie upstairs to get dressed. Harrison moved his work position to be under different windows, following them through the house. He watched Destiny help Sophie brush her teeth, making silly faces in the mirror to get her to smile again. He watched her gently brush Sophie's hair, being so careful not to pull. Around 9, Thomas woke up. Harrison heard his son's sleepy voice calling for Destiny, not for Lauren. Destiny went to get him, and Harrison moved to the windows near Thomas's bedroom. But Lauren got there first. Harrison heard her voice before he saw anything. "Thomas, I've told you not to call for the maid. She's not your mother." "Want Destiny?" Thomas's small voice said. "Well, you can't have her. I'm here. Let's get you dressed." Harrison found a spot where he could see into Thomas's room. His son was standing beside his bed in his pajamas, tears on his cheeks. Lauren was pulling clothes roughly from his dresser. "Arms up," she commanded. Thomas lifted his arms, and Lauren yanked his pajama shirt over his head so forcefully that Thomas stumbled. "Stand still. Stop being difficult." "I'm trying," Thomas whimpered. "Try harder." She shoved his arms into a clean shirt, not bothering to be gentle. When Thomas's hand got caught in the sleeve, she jerked it through instead of helping him adjust. Thomas cried out. That's when Destiny appeared in the doorway. "Miss Lauren, I can finish here if you'd like. I know you have that phone call scheduled with your friends." Lauren looked up, irritation flashing across her face. "I'm perfectly capable of dressing a child. Of course. I just thought." There you go again thinking. Maybe that's your problem, Destiny. Maybe you think too much and do too little. I apologize. I didn't mean to overstep. Lauren stared at her for a long moment, then seemed to make a decision. Fine. You finish here. But get him dressed properly. Last time you let him wear that ridiculous dinosaur shirt. He looked like a homeless child. She brushed past Destiny and disappeared down the hall. Destiny immediately went to Thomas, kneeling down to his level. "Hey buddy. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Thomas threw his arms around her neck and buried his face in her shoulder. Destiny held him, one hand rubbing soothing circles on his back. It's okay. You're okay. I've got you. Harrison had to turn away. He couldn't watch anymore without doing something, without running inside and scooping up his son. But he had to wait. He had to see everything. The morning continued in a similar pattern. Whenever Lauren interacted with the children, there was harshness, criticism, impatience. Whenever Destiny was with them, there was warmth, gentleness, joy. It was like watching two completely different households exist in the same space. Around 11, Harrison heard raised voices from inside. He moved closer to an open window in the hallway. You're undermining my authority with these children, Lauren was saying, her voice sharp. Every time I try to discipline them, you swoop in and coddle them. I'm not trying to undermine anyone, Destiny replied, her voice steady despite the obvious stress. I'm just trying to help. By making me look like the villain? By making yourself their favorite? I see what you're doing, Destiny. You're trying to make yourself indispensable. That's not true. I just care about them. You care about your paycheck. Don't pretend it's more than that. There was a pause. When Destiny spoke again, her voice was quieter but still firm. I do care about my paycheck. My little sister is counting on me to help with her college tuition. But that doesn't mean I can't also genuinely care about Sophie and Thomas. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. How noble, Lauren said sarcastically. The poor working girl with a heart of gold. It's quite a performance. It's not a performance. Isn't it? Tell me, Destiny, what do you think will happen when Harrison comes back and I tell him you've been disrespectful and insubordinate? When I tell him you've been turning his children against me? Do you think he'll believe you over me? His fiancée. Harrison heard the threat clearly. He gripped the windowsill, forcing himself to stay hidden. Destiny's response was quiet. I haven't done anything wrong. That's not how I'll tell it. You'll be fired, blacklisted. Good luck getting another job in this city once I'm done. Good luck helping your sister then. Why are you doing this? Destiny asked, and Harrison could hear the pain in her voice. What have I done to you? You breathe, Lauren said coldly. You exist in my space. You make me look bad by comparison. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to step back. You're going to let me handle the children my way without interference. You're going to do your job, which is cleaning and serving, not playing nanny. Understood? There was a long silence. Then Destiny said, I understand what you're saying. But I can't promise I won't step in if the children need help. Then you're even dumber than I thought. But fine. Get in my way again and you're done. I'll make sure of it. Harrison heard footsteps and quickly moved away from the window, pretending to be focused on the hedge. A moment later, he glanced up and saw Destiny walking quickly toward the garden shed. Even from a distance, he could see she was crying. Every instinct screamed at him to follow her, to reveal himself, to fix this. But he couldn't. Not yet. He needed more evidence. He needed absolute proof before he acted. But watching Destiny's shoulders shake as she disappeared into the shed, knowing she was in pain because she dared to protect his children, Harrison felt something shift inside him. This wasn't just about Lauren anymore. It was about everyone who was suffering under her cruelty. And he was going to make sure it ended. Harrison waited 10 minutes before walking toward the garden shed. He knocked gently on the door. Hello? Everything all right in there? There was a rustle, then Destiny's voice, carefully controlled. Yes, sorry. Just organizing some supplies. Mind if I grab some fertilizer? Mrs. Rodriguez asked me to treat the front lawn today. Pause. Of course. Come in. He opened the door to find Destiny standing by the shelves, her back to him. She'd clearly been crying, but she'd wiped her face and was trying to compose herself. His heart ached. The fertilizer is on that bottom shelf, she said, not turning around. Thank you. Harrison grabbed a bag, then hesitated. Miss Destiny, I don't mean to pry, but are you okay? I'm fine. Her voice cracked slightly. You don't sound fine. Look, I know I'm new here, but I can tell when someone is hurting. She finally turned to face him, and he saw her eyes were red. It's nothing. Just a difficult day. Miss Lauren? He asked gently. Destiny's eyes widened. I shouldn't talk about this with you. It's not professional. Sometimes talking to a stranger is easier than talking to people who are close to the situation, Harrison said. I promise whatever you say stays between us. She studied him for a moment, then seemed to make a decision. She threatened to fire me. To make sure I never work in this city again. Why would she do that? Because I try to help the children. Because they like me. Because she sees it as a challenge to her authority. Destiny wrapped her arms around herself. I can't afford to lose this job. My little sister, Amara, she's at State University studying to be a nurse. Our parents died when I was 19 and she was 12. I've been taking care of her ever since. The tuition payments are due in 2 weeks, and if I get fired. Her voice broke and she turned away again. Harrison felt like someone had punched him in the chest. This young woman was sacrificing so much, risking so much, all while dealing with threats from his fiancée. I'm sorry, he said quietly. That's an impossible situation. I just don't know what to do. If I step back like she wants, the children will suffer more. But if I keep protecting them, I'll lose my job and won't be able to help Amara. Either way, someone I love gets hurt. The children are lucky to have you. Destiny laughed bitterly. For now. But Miss Lauren is right. When Mr. Bennett comes back, he'll believe her over me. Why wouldn't he? She's beautiful, sophisticated, everything a successful man could want. I'm just the maid. You're more than that, Harrison said firmly. Anyone can see how much you care about those kids. It won't matter. People like Mr. Bennett don't see people like me. We're invisible to them. She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be telling you all this. You've got your own problems to worry about. We all need someone to listen sometimes. Destiny gave him a small, grateful smile. Thank you, Henry. You're kind. After she left, Harrison stood in the shed trying to control his emotions. Destiny thought he didn't see her, that people like him didn't notice people like her. She had no idea he was standing right there, that he'd heard every word, that his heart was breaking for her sacrifice. That afternoon, Harrison positioned himself near the playroom again. Sophie and Thomas were having quiet time, playing with blocks on the floor. Lauren was on her phone in the corner, scrolling through social media and occasionally laughing at something she saw. Thomas knocked over his block tower accidentally. The crash was loud in the quiet room. Lauren's head snapped up. What did I tell you about being careful? It was an accident, Thomas said, his voice small. Accidents happen because people are careless. Pick those up. Every single one. Thomas started gathering blocks, his hands shaking. He was 3 years old. Just 3. Harrison's vision went red around the edges. Sophie, trying to help her brother, reached for some blocks. No, Lauren snapped. He made the mess. He cleans it up. You stay out of it. Sophie pulled her hand back, looking miserable. Thomas continued picking up blocks, tears sliding down his cheeks. When he'd gathered them all back into the container, Lauren didn't say good job or anything encouraging. She just went back to her phone. Harrison watched this and thought about all the times he'd come home to find Lauren being sweet to the children, playing the perfect stepmother role. How many times had she switched personalities the moment he walked in? How long had this been going on? That evening at staff dinner, Harrison learned more about Destiny. Rosa mentioned that Destiny had picked up an extra shift on Saturday even though she was supposed to have the day off. You work too much, Mrs. Rodriguez scolded gently. You need rest. I'm fine, Destiny insisted. Besides, the extra money helps. How is Amara doing? Rosa asked. Destiny's face lit up. She made Dean's List last semester. She's doing so well. I'm so proud of her. She's lucky to have a sister like you, Antonio said. I'm the lucky one. She's going to be an amazing nurse one day. Harrison watched Destiny's expression as she talked about her sister. The love and pride were so clear, so pure. This woman who had so little was giving everything to help someone else succeed. And Lauren was threatening to take it all away from her just because she dared to be kind to 2 children. That night in the motel, Harrison called Robert again. I need you to look into something for me. There's a young woman on my staff named Destiny Turner. She has a younger sister named Amara who's studying nursing at State University. Why? Harrison explained what he'd learned. Lauren is threatening to fire her and blacklist her if she keeps protecting my kids. I need to know if there's anything we can do to help. Quietly. Without revealing who I am. Harrison, you can't start interfering. You'll blow your cover. I'm not going to let an innocent person suffer because of my fiancé's cruelty. Find out what Amara's tuition situation is. If there's any way to help without it being traced back to me, I want to do it. Robert sighed. You're getting emotionally involved. A woman is risking her entire livelihood to protect my children. Damn right I'm emotionally involved. All right. I'll see what I can find out. The next few days followed a similar pattern. Harrison watched Lauren's cruelty and Destiny's quiet courage. He saw Sophie flinch when Lauren raised her voice. He saw Thomas reaching for Destiny's hand whenever he was scared. He saw Destiny putting herself between the children and Lauren's anger time and time again, even knowing what it might cost her. On Thursday afternoon, Harrison witnessed something that changed everything. He was trimming the bushes near the dining room when he heard a crash inside. Then Sophie's scream. He dropped his tools and ran to the window. Sophie was on the floor, crying. Juice was spilled everywhere. Lauren was standing over her, fury on her face. "You stupid, clumsy child. Look at this mess." "I'm sorry," Sophie sobbed. "I didn't mean to." "You never mean to. But you keep doing stupid things anyway." Lauren grabbed Sophie's arm hard, right where the bruises had been days before. Sophie cried out in pain. That's when Destiny came running in. "Miss Lauren, please, she didn't mean to. Stay out of this. You're hurting her." Lauren's eyes were cold. "I'm disciplining her. Something you know nothing about. Please. I'll clean it up. Just let her go." "What? So you can coddle her? So you can be the hero again?" Destiny stepped closer. "I'm asking you, please. Let go of her arm." For a long moment, Lauren stared at Destiny. Then she shoved Sophie toward her. "Fine. You deal with the mess. All of it. The floor, the tablecloth, everything. And Destiny? That's the last time you interfere. Pack your things. You're fired." Harrison saw Destiny's face go white. "Miss Lauren, please. I need this job." "You should have thought of that before you questioned me. You have until the end of the day to leave." Lauren stormed out. Destiny sank to her knees and pulled Sophie into a hug, both of them crying now. Harrison pressed his forehead against the window frame, his whole body shaking with rage. He'd seen enough. He had more than enough evidence. It was time to end this. But first, he needed to make sure Destiny and her sister would be okay, no matter what happened next. Harrison drove straight to Robert's office that evening, still in his gardener disguise. He burst through the door without knocking. "Tell me you found something on Destiny's sister." Robert looked up from his computer. "Nice to see you too. And yes, I found plenty. Amara Turner is a sophomore at State University, nursing program. She has a partial scholarship, but still owes $15,000 per semester in tuition and fees. She's also working 2 part-time jobs to cover living expenses. According to my contact at the university, she's an exceptional student. Professors speak highly of her. What if someone paid off her tuition? All of it? For all 4 years. That would cost over $100,000. I can afford it. Can you set it up anonymously?" Robert leaned back in his chair. "Harrison, what happened?" Harrison told him about Sophie's arm, about the juice spill, about Lauren firing Destiny. "She risked everything for my daughter. Now she's going to lose her job, her ability to help her sister. All because she dared to be a decent human being. I can't let that happen. And what about your cover? If you step in now, Lauren will know something is up. I don't care anymore. Tomorrow I'm revealing who I am. Tomorrow this ends. But tonight I want to make sure Destiny and Amara are taken care of. No matter what happens tomorrow, they need to be protected." Robert studied him for a long moment. "You care about this woman? She's been protecting my children when I couldn't. When I was blind and stupid and trusting the wrong person. Yes, I care about her. All right. I'll set up an anonymous scholarship fund. It'll take a few hours to arrange everything properly so it can't be traced back to you, but I can have it in place by morning." "Thank you." "Harrison, what are you going to do tomorrow?" "I'm going to call a household meeting. I'm going to reveal my identity. And I'm going to make sure Lauren faces consequences for what she's done to my children and my staff." "Do you have enough evidence?" Harrison pulled out his phone. Over the past few days, he'd been taking photos and videos through the windows. Nothing illegal since he was on his own property and the rooms were visible from public areas of the yard. "I have evidence. Plus, once I reveal myself, the staff will feel safe enough to speak up. They've been afraid of Lauren, but they'll talk once they know I'm on their side." Robert nodded slowly. "Okay. Then let's do this right. I'll prepare some legal documents for you to serve Lauren. Child endangerment charges, breach of domestic trust, whatever we can make stick. And I'll make sure the police are aware of the situation in case she tries anything." "Good. What about Destiny? Are you going to tell her who you are?" Harrison thought about that. "Tomorrow. When I reveal myself to everyone. I'll offer her the nanny position then if she'll take it. And if she's angry that you deceived everyone? Then I'll apologize and hope she understands why I had to do it." That night, Harrison couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the morning, about what would happen when he walked in as himself instead of Henry Walsh. He thought about Sophie and Thomas, about how they'd react to seeing their father when they thought he was still in London. He thought about Destiny, about the look on her face when she realized the humble gardener was actually her employer. He hoped she'd understand. He hoped she wouldn't hate him. At 5 in the morning, Harrison got up and started preparing. He showered off the gray hair dye for the last time. He shaved off the fake beard carefully. He put on one of his regular suits, a sharp navy blue that reminded him who he really was. He looked at himself in the mirror. Harrison Bennett stared back at him, not Henry Walsh. It was time. He drove to the mansion in his regular car, the BMW that had been parked in Robert's private garage. He parked in the front driveway, something Henry Walsh would never do. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. Mrs. Rodriguez opened the door at his knock, her mouth falling open in shock. "Mr. Bennett? But you're in London." "What? I don't understand." "I know. I'll explain everything. Is everyone here?" "Yes, but what's going on?" "Please gather everyone in the main living room. The entire staff. Tell them it's mandatory. Don't tell anyone I'm here yet." Mrs. Rodriguez looked confused but nodded. "Of course, sir." "And Mrs. Rodriguez? Is Destiny Turner still here?" Her face fell. "Yes. Miss Lauren fired her yesterday, but she asked for permission to stay one more night to say goodbye to the children this morning. She's been packing her things." "Good. Make sure she comes to the meeting too. Tell her she's required to attend before she leaves." "Yes, sir." Harrison waited in his home office while Mrs. Rodriguez gathered everyone. He could hear the confused murmurs, the speculation about what was happening. He heard Rosa say, "Maybe Mr. Bennett came back early?" At 6:30 Mrs. Rodriguez knocked on the office door. "Everyone is assembled, sir. Including Miss Lauren." Harrison took a deep breath. This was it. He walked down the hallway toward the living room, his footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. He paused in the doorway, taking in the scene. The staff were gathered on one side of the room, looking confused and worried. Mrs. Rodriguez, Rosa, Antonio, and Destiny. His heart clenched when he saw Destiny. She wore jeans and a green sweater instead of her uniform, and her eyes were red from crying. She looked exhausted and heartbroken. Lauren sat on the white sofa looking annoyed. "What's this about, Mrs. Rodriguez? I have a spa appointment in an hour." Then Harrison stepped into the room. The reaction was immediate. Lauren's face went white. The staff gasped. But it was Destiny's reaction that hit Harrison the hardest. She stared at him, her eyes widening in shock, then flickering with understanding, then filling with something that looked like betrayal. "Henry," she whispered. "My name is Harrison Bennett," he said quietly. "I'm sorry I lied to you all." "What the hell is going on?" Lauren demanded, standing up. "Why are you dressed as that gardener?" "Because I needed to see the truth," Harrison said. "I needed to see what really happens in this house when I'm not around." "Have you lost your mind? This is insane." "What's insane is that I was blind for so long." Harrison turned to face her fully. "I know everything, Lauren. I know about the bruises. I know about the cruelty. I know about the threats. I've seen it all." Lauren's expression shifted from shock to calculation. "I have no idea what you're talking about. If someone has been spreading lies about me, I saw it with my own eyes. For days I watched you hurt my children. I watched you berate and threaten my staff. I have evidence. Photos. Videos. Witness accounts. Those children are fine. They're just spoiled and need discipline. And as for the staff, if they've been unprofessional, that's hardly my fault." "Unprofessional?" Harrison's voice rose. "You mean protecting my children from harm? That's what Destiny was doing when you fired her. She was protecting a 5-year-old child from your cruelty." Lauren's eyes flashed to Destiny, who was standing frozen, still staring at Harrison. "That woman has been undermining me since day one. She's tried to turn your children against me. My children are afraid of you. I saw the fear in their eyes. I heard my son cry because you handled him so roughly. I watched my daughter tremble because you yelled at her for a simple accident. You're exaggerating. Children are dramatic." "No." Harrison's voice was cold now. "You're done. Pack your things. You're leaving this house today. My attorney has already prepared the paperwork ending our engagement. You'll be hearing from the police about potential child endangerment charges." Lauren's face twisted with rage. "You can't do this. I'll sue you. I'll take everything." "Try it. I have evidence of everything you've done. Robert Chin is one of the best attorneys in the state, and he's documented every incident. You have no leverage here." For the first time, Lauren seemed to realize she'd lost. Her shoulders sagged. "I loved you." "No, you didn't. You loved my money and my status. You never loved my children, and that's all that matters to me. Lauren looked around the room at the staff, who were staring at her with undisguised disgust. I want these people fired. All of them. They've been conspiring against me. You have no authority here anymore. Antonio, would you please escort Miss Lauren to her room so she can pack? Make sure she doesn't take anything that doesn't belong to her. Antonio nodded. With pleasure, sir. As Lauren was led from the room, she shot one last venomous look at Destiny. This is your fault. You destroyed everything. No, Harrison said firmly. You destroyed it yourself through your own cruelty. Destiny just had the courage to stand up to you. After Lauren was gone, Harrison turned to face his staff. They were all staring at him with various expressions of shock, confusion, and relief. I know what I did was wrong, he said. I lied to all of you. I invaded your privacy. I understand if you're angry with me. But I needed to know the truth and I couldn't see it as myself. I was blind to what was happening to my children. Mrs. Rodriguez spoke first. Mr. Bennett, we tried to tell you. Subtly because we were afraid. But we tried. I know. And I'm sorry I didn't listen. I'm sorry I let it get this far. Rosa was crying. Those children have been so scared. We've all been trying to protect them, but Miss Lauren was always watching. You did protect them, Harrison said. Especially you, Destiny. Destiny hadn't moved. She was still staring at him with that same shocked expression. Harrison took a step toward her. Destiny, She held up a hand, stopping him. You lied to me. I told you things, personal things, and you weren't who you said you were. I know. I'm sorry. I thought Henry was my friend. Someone who understood. But it was all fake. My disguise was fake. But the conversations we had, those were real. When I listened to you, that was real. Was it? Because from where I'm standing, you're just another rich man who doesn't see people like me as equals. You let me pour my heart out to you while you were spying on your own house. Her words hurt because they were partially true. You're right. I should have told you who I was. But Destiny, I saw your courage. I saw how you protected my children at risk to yourself. I saw how much you sacrificed for your sister. I saw everything that makes you extraordinary. And I'm grateful. More than you can possibly know. I'm fired, she said flatly. Miss Lauren fired me. So what now? Do I still have to leave? No. God, no. Destiny, I want to offer you a position. Full-time nanny for Sophie and Thomas. Triple your previous salary. Private apartment in the guest house. And a scholarship fund has been set up for your sister, Amara. Full tuition all 4 years plus living expenses. Destiny's eyes widened. What? No. No, I can't accept that. Why not? Because it's too much. Because it feels like payment for keeping quiet about what happened. Because I don't need your charity. It's not charity. My children need you. They love you. They trust you in a way they never trusted Lauren. You've proven you'll protect them even when it costs you everything. That's not something I can put a price on, but I can try to show my gratitude. Mr. Bennett? Harrison? Please. Destiny shook her head. This is too much. The money, the apartment, the scholarship. It's overwhelming. Then just say yes to the nanny position. We can discuss the rest later. But please don't leave. My children need you. I need you to stay. Destiny looked at him for a long moment. Harrison could see the conflict in her eyes. She was hurt by his deception, overwhelmed by his offer, torn between pride and practicality. Finally, she said, I need time to think about all of this. Can I give you my answer tomorrow? Of course. Take all the time you need. She nodded and turned to leave. At the doorway she paused and looked back. For what it's worth, I'm glad you finally saw the truth. Those children deserve better. Then she was gone, and Harrison was left standing in his living room, surrounded by his loyal staff, wondering if he'd lost the one person who mattered most. Do you think Destiny should forgive Harrison for deceiving her? Was he right to go undercover, or should he have found another way to discover the truth? Comment below with your thoughts and don't forget to subscribe to see how this story unfolds. Would you accept his offer if you were in Destiny's shoes? The rest of that day passed in a blur. Harrison called his children's pediatrician and arranged for an immediate appointment to document any injuries. He called his attorney to finalize the legal separation from Lauren. He called the police to file a formal report about the child endangerment. But through it all, his mind kept drifting back to Destiny's face. The hurt in her eyes. The way she'd looked at him like he was a stranger. Around noon he went upstairs to check on Sophie and Thomas. Mrs. Rodriguez had been watching them during the chaos. They were in the playroom, and when Harrison walked in, Sophie looked up in confusion. Daddy? You're home early. I am, Princess. My trip got cut short. He knelt down and gathered both children into his arms, holding them tight. I'm so sorry I was gone. I'm so sorry I didn't see what was happening. Are you sad? Sophie asked, touching his face where tears were sliding down. A little bit. But I'm also happy because I'm home now, and I'm not going away again. Is Lauren still here? Thomas asked quietly. No, buddy. Lauren doesn't live here anymore. She's gone. Forever. Sophie's voice was small and hopeful. Forever. Both children sagged with relief. Sophie started crying, and Harrison realized these were tears of relief, not sadness. I was scared, Daddy. I didn't want to tell you because she said you wouldn't believe me. I believe you now, sweetheart. And I promise no one will ever hurt you again. I'm going to be here. I'm going to protect you. Is Destiny still here? Thomas asked. Lauren said she was leaving. Harrison's heart clenched. Destiny is still here. And I hope she's going to stay for a long time. That afternoon, Mrs. Rodriguez told him that Destiny was in the guest house apartment, which was currently being used for storage. She'd gone there to be alone and think. Harrison wanted to go to her, to explain, to apologize properly. But he forced himself to give her space. She'd asked for time and he needed to respect that. Instead, he took his children to their doctor appointment. Dr. Patricia Hughes had been their pediatrician since Sophie was born. She examined both children carefully, documenting every bruise, every mark. Her face was grim. Mr. Bennett, these injuries are consistent with child abuse, she said in her office after the exam. I'm required by law to report this. I know. I've already filed a police report. My fiancé will be facing charges. Good. These children have clearly been living in fear. I recommend therapy for both of them to help process what they've experienced. I'll arrange it immediately. Dr. Hughes handed him a list of recommended child therapists. I'm glad you discovered this when you did. Children are resilient, but prolonged abuse can cause lasting trauma. That evening, the police came to take Harrison's statement and view the evidence he'd collected. They also interviewed Mrs. Rodriguez, Rosa, and Antonio separately. Each staff member confirmed what Harrison had witnessed. The pattern of abuse was clear and undeniable. We'll be filing charges against Ms. Lauren Hartley, the detective said. Child endangerment, assault, harassment. She'll likely face jail time if convicted. Harrison nodded. He felt no satisfaction, only sadness that it had come to this. After the police left, Harrison stood in his kitchen, exhausted. It was nearly 8 o'clock. The children were already bathed and in their pajamas. Mrs. Rodriguez had made a simple dinner of chicken and vegetables. Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Rodriguez said gently, you should eat something. I'm not hungry. You need to keep your strength up. Those children need you healthy. She was right. Harrison sat down at the kitchen table and forced himself to eat. Rosa joined him, having finished cleaning up the children's dinner. Mr. Bennett, can I say something? Rosa asked. Of course. What you did, going undercover, it was strange. But I understand why you did it. And I think it was brave. I should have noticed sooner. I should have seen the signs. Miss Lauren was very good at hiding her true nature. She only showed it to us and the children, people she thought couldn't hurt her. With you, with your business associates, with anyone who mattered to her plans, she was perfect. You're not a bad father for being fooled. You're a good father for taking action when you realize the truth. Her words helped more than she could know. Thank you, Rosa. And Destiny, she'll come around. She's hurt right now, but she's a smart woman. She'll understand why you did what you did. I hope so. That night, Harrison tucked his children into bed himself. Sophie clung to him. You won't leave again, right, Daddy? I'm not going anywhere, Princess. I promise. And Destiny will stay? I hope so. I asked her to, but she needs to decide if she wants to. Sophie's little face was serious. She has to stay. She's the best. I know she is. After the children were asleep, Harrison stood in the hallway for a long moment, gathering his courage. Then he walked outside across the lawn, to the guest house where Destiny had spent the day. He knocked softly on the door. Destiny? It's Harrison. Can we talk? There was a long pause, then the door opened. Destiny stood there in sweatpants and an old college shirt, her hair in a ponytail. She looked tired and sad. I told you I needed time, she said. I know. I'm sorry. But I couldn't sleep without trying to explain myself properly. If you want me to leave after, I will. But please just give me 5 minutes. She hesitated, then stepped back to let him in. The guest house apartment was small but cozy, with a kitchenette, a living area, and a bedroom visible through an open door. Destiny had clearly been packing. A suitcase lay open on the sofa. "You're still planning to leave?" Harrison asked, his heart sinking. "I don't know yet. That's what I'm trying to figure out." Harrison took a deep breath. "When I saw those bruises on my children, I felt like the ground disappeared beneath me. I asked Lauren about them and she had explanations that sounded reasonable. But something in my gut said she was lying. I started paying attention and I realized my children were afraid. In their own home they were living in fear. And I had no proof. No evidence. Just a feeling." Destiny listened, her arms wrapped around herself. "I knew if I accused Lauren without proof, she'd deny everything. She'd convince me I was overreacting. And my children would continue to suffer. So I made the decision to see for myself what really happened when I wasn't around. I created the disguise. I took the job as a gardener. And yes, I lied to everyone, including you." "You let me tell you personal things," Destiny said quietly. "About my sister, about my struggles. You held my secrets while hiding your own identity." "I know. And I'm sorry. But Destiny, everything I said to you as Henry was true. When I told you that you were more than just a maid, I meant it. When I told you the children were lucky to have you, I meant it. When I listened to you talk about your sister and saw how much you love her, that was real. My disguise was fake, but my respect for you, my gratitude, my admiration for your courage, all of that was completely real. How can I trust that? How can I trust anything you say when our entire friendship was based on a lie?" Harrison felt desperate. "Because I'm standing here now as myself telling you the same things. You are extraordinary. What you did for my children, putting yourself at risk despite Lauren's threats, that was the bravest thing I've ever witnessed. And yes, I want to offer you a job and help your sister. But it's not out of guilt or obligation. Just because you deserve it. Because Sophie and Thomas need you. Because I've seen your heart and it's beautiful." Destiny's eyes filled with tears. "You don't understand. My whole life I've been invisible to people like you. Rich people, successful people, they look right through me. I'm just the help. Just another service worker who doesn't matter. And for a few days talking to Henry, I thought I'd found someone who actually saw me as an equal. Someone who listened to me like my thoughts mattered. But it was all fake. You were just playing a role." "I wasn't playing a role. I was being more honest as Henry than I've been as Harrison in years. Do you know why? Because I couldn't hide behind my money or my status. I was just a person and you treated me with kindness. You shared your life with me. And I felt honored by that. I still do." "Then why does this hurt so much?" Destiny whispered. "Because trust matters. And I broke yours. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." They stood in silence for a long moment. Harrison wanted to reach for her hand to comfort her, but he didn't have the right. Finally, Destiny spoke. "Tell me about the scholarship for Amara. I need to understand that." Harrison explained how he'd asked Robert to research her situation, how he'd learned about the tuition struggles, how he'd set up an anonymous scholarship fund. "It was important to me that you and your sister were protected, no matter what happened with my confrontation with Lauren. You'd sacrificed so much for my children. I wanted to make sure you didn't lose everything because of it. That's a lot of money. Money I have. What I don't have is someone I trust completely with my children. Someone who loves them genuinely, not because they have to or because it looks good, but because they truly care. You're that person, Destiny. And I'm begging you to stay. Not for the money. Not for the apartment. But because Sophie and Thomas need you." "What about you?" Destiny asked quietly. "Do you need me?" The question caught Harrison off guard. He looked at her, really looked at her, and realized the truth. "Yes, I need you too. Not just as a nanny. But as someone who makes me want to be better. Someone who sees past the business suits and bank accounts to the person underneath. Someone who challenges me with her honesty and inspires me with her courage. So yes, I need you in my life." Destiny wiped her eyes. "This is a lot to process." "I know. And I'm not asking you to decide everything tonight. I'm just asking you not to leave. Stay in this apartment. Take your time. Get to know me as Harrison instead of Henry. Let me prove to you that I'm worth trusting. And then when you're ready, tell me what you want. Whatever you decide, I'll respect it. What if I decide to leave?" The thought made Harrison's chest ache. "Then I'll help you find a new position somewhere else. I'll write you the best reference letter anyone has ever written. I'll make sure your sister's scholarship stays in place. And I'll thank you for everything you did for my children. But I really hope you'll stay." Destiny studied him for a long moment. Then she said, Okay. I'll stay. Temporarily. I'll take the nanny position on a trial basis. But I'm not moving into this apartment yet, and I'm not accepting the scholarship for Amara until I decide if I trust you. We're going to start over, you and me. No more secrets. No more lies. Just honesty. Can you do that? Yes. Absolutely yes. And I need you to understand something. I'm not impressed by your money. I don't care how big your house is or how expensive your cars are. If we're going to have any kind of relationship, professional or otherwise, it has to be based on respect. Real respect, not the kind where you pay someone enough that they pretend to be grateful. I understand. And for what it's worth, I've always respected you. Even before I knew how much courage you had, I saw the kindness. That matters more than anything money can buy. Destiny nodded slowly. Okay then. I'll see you tomorrow morning. What time do the children usually wake up? Around 7. But Destiny, take the morning off. Rest. I'll handle the kids tomorrow. Are you sure? You have a business to run. My children are more important than any business meeting. I'm going to be spending more time at home from now on. A lot more time. Something in Destiny's expression softened. That's good. They need you. Harrison walked to the door, then turned back. Thank you. For giving me another chance. Don't make me regret it. I won't. I promise. As Harrison walked back to the main house, he felt lighter than he had in months. Destiny was staying. She didn't trust him yet, but she was giving him the opportunity to earn that trust. It was more than he deserved, and he wasn't going to waste it. Tomorrow would be the first day of something new. A chance to rebuild his family, to create a home based on honesty and love instead of appearances and convenience. And maybe if he was very lucky, he'd also get the chance to know Destiny Turner better. To learn what made her laugh, what dreams she held in her heart, what hopes she had for the future. But first he had to prove he was worthy of her trust. And Harrison Bennett had never been more motivated to succeed at anything in his life. The next morning, Harrison woke up early and made breakfast for his children himself. Sophie and Thomas came down the stairs in their pajamas, surprised to see their father in the kitchen instead of Mrs. Rodriguez. "Daddy, you're making breakfast?" Sophie asked. "I am. Pancakes. Your favorite." Thomas climbed into his chair, watching carefully. "Are they going to be good?" Harrison laughed. "I don't know, buddy. Let's find out together." The pancakes were slightly lumpy and unevenly cooked, but the children ate them without complaint. Harrison sat with them, actually sat and ate instead of checking his phone or rushing off to work. They talked about what they wanted to do that day. Sophie wanted to paint. Thomas wanted to play with his trucks. "We can do both," Harrison said. "After breakfast, we'll set up the art supplies in the playroom, and Thomas can build truck roads while Sophie paints." "Sound good." Both children nodded happily. Harrison felt a warmth in his chest that he hadn't felt in a long time. These simple moments, this normal morning routine, this was what he'd been missing while he buried himself in work. At 8 o'clock there was a knock on the kitchen door. Destiny stood there in jeans and a yellow shirt, looking uncertain. "Good morning," Harrison said, standing up. "I thought you were taking the morning off." "I tried. But I kept thinking about the kids and wondering if they were okay." "Daddy made pancakes," Thomas announced. "They were lumpy." Destiny smiled, and Harrison felt like the sun had come out. "Lumpy pancakes are the best kind. Would you like some?" Harrison offered. "I have batter left." "Sure. Thank you." As Harrison poured more batter onto the griddle, he watched Destiny greet the children. Sophie immediately started telling her about the painting she wanted to do. Thomas showed her his favorite truck. The love between them was so clear, so natural. Mrs. Rodriguez came in and stopped short, seeing Harrison at the stove and Destiny at the table with the children. "Mr. Bennett, I can take over breakfast." "It's okay, Mrs. Rodriguez. I've got it. Would you like some pancakes too?" "Are you sure?" "Positive. Have a seat. You too, Rosa?" he added as the young woman appeared in the doorway. "Antonio as well if he's here." Soon the entire kitchen was full of people eating lumpy pancakes and talking over coffee. It felt like a family instead of an employer and staff. Harrison liked it. After breakfast, Destiny helped the children get dressed while Harrison cleaned up the kitchen. Mrs. Rodriguez watched him with an amused expression. "You know, Mr. Bennett, you don't have to do dishes." "I want to. I've been absent from this house, from their lives, for too long. I'm going to change that. Those children are lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have them. I'm lucky to have all of you. You've protected my family when I failed to." Mrs. Rodriguez's eyes grew misty. "We did our best." At 10 o'clock there was a commotion at the front door. Harrison went to investigate and found 2 police officers standing on the porch. Mr. Bennett? We wanted to update you on the situation with Ms. Hartley. Of course. Come in. They sat in the living room, and the detective explained that they'd arrested Lauren that morning. She'd been charged with multiple counts of child endangerment and assault. She's been released on bail, but there's a restraining order in place. She's not allowed to come within 500 feet of your home or your children. What happens now? There'll be a trial. With the evidence you've provided and the witness statements from your staff, the case is strong. The district attorney is confident we'll get a conviction. After the police left, Harrison felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that Lauren couldn't hurt his children anymore. Sadness that someone he'd once cared about had turned out to be so cruel. Anger at himself for not seeing it sooner. That afternoon, Robert arrived with more papers to sign. Harrison invited him into the home office, and Destiny brought them coffee without being asked. Robert watched her leave, then turned to Harrison with raised eyebrows. So that's Destiny Turner. Yes. She's lovely. And clearly devoted to your children. She is. And you're in love with her. Harrison nearly dropped his coffee mug. What? No. I respect her. I'm grateful to her. But love? Robert laughed. Harrison, I've known you for 15 years. I've never seen you look at anyone the way you looked at her just now. Not even your late wife, God rest her soul. Harrison set down his coffee carefully. Elizabeth was everything to me. She was. And she'd want you to be happy again. She'd want you to find someone who loves your children and treats them well. Someone genuine and kind. Someone exactly like Destiny. I barely know her. You spent days talking to her as Henry. You know her better than you think. And more importantly, you trust her. That's rare. Harrison thought about that as Robert left. Was Robert right? Did he have feelings for Destiny beyond gratitude and respect? He thought about the way his heart had lifted when she'd smiled that morning. The way he'd wanted to reach for her hand last night. The way he kept finding excuses to be near her. Maybe Robert was right. Maybe he was falling in love with her. But Destiny had just started trusting him again. He couldn't complicate things by developing romantic feelings. She deserved time and space to figure out what she wanted without pressure. That evening at dinner, Harrison announced a family meeting. I want to talk to all of you about something important, he said, looking at his staff and children gathered around the kitchen table. Things are going to be different from now on. I'm going to be working from home 3 days a week. I'm going to be present for meals, for bedtime, for the important moments. And I want us to function more like a family and less like an employer and employees. Mrs. Rodriguez looked uncomfortable. Mr. Bennett, that's very kind, but we have our roles. I know. And I'm not asking you to stop doing your jobs. I'm just saying that I value each of you as people, not just as staff. You've protected my family. You've cared about my children. That deserves recognition and respect. Rosa wiped her eyes. Thank you, Mr. Bennett. And I'm giving everyone a raise, Harrison continued. 20% effective immediately. You've all earned it. Antonio shook his head in wonder. You don't have to do that, sir. I want to. You deserve it. That night, after the children were in bed, Harrison found Destiny in the playroom, cleaning up the art supplies from earlier. He picked up some crayons and helped her put them away. Thank you for staying, he said quietly. I'm still not sure it was the right decision, she admitted. But I couldn't leave them. I love those kids too much. They love you too. Sophie asked me 3 times today if you were really staying. What did you tell her? That I hoped you would. That we all wanted you here. Destiny put the last crayon in the box and turned to face him. Harrison, can I ask you something? Anything. Why did you really want me to stay? Is it just about the children? Harrison's heart started pounding. This was a moment of truth and he needed to be honest. No. It's not just about the children. You make me want to be better. You challenge me to see past my own privilege and really pay attention to the people around me. You inspire me with your strength and kindness. And yes, I care about you. As more than just an employee. Destiny's eyes widened. Harrison. I'm not asking for anything, he added quickly. I know you're still learning to trust me again. I'm just being honest like you asked. But whatever happens between us or doesn't happen, I want you to know that you matter. You're not invisible. Not to me. Destiny was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I care about you too. I'm confused and overwhelmed, but I care. And that scares me. Why? Because we come from completely different worlds. You're a millionaire businessman. I'm a maid who sends money home to her sister. What kind of future could we possibly have? The kind of future we build together. One based on honesty and respect and genuine care for each other. If that's what we both want. Is that what you want? Harrison thought about it carefully. Yes. I want to get to know you better. I want to earn your trust completely. I want to see if what we're both feeling could become something real. But only if you want that too. No pressure. No expectations. Just possibility. Destiny smiled, a small, shy smile that made Harrison's heart race. Okay. Let's see what happens. Yeah. But slowly. We need to be careful. Your children come first. Always. They come first for both of us. Then maybe we have a chance. Harrison grinned, feeling like a teenager with his first crush. Maybe we do. They finished cleaning the playroom together, talking easily about small things. Harrison learned that Destiny loved old movies and had a secret weakness for chocolate chip cookies. She learned that he'd wanted to be an architect before going into real estate, and he still sketched buildings sometimes for fun. When they said goodnight at the guest house door, Harrison wanted to kiss her. But he held back. They had time. They could build something real, something lasting. And for the first time in years, Harrison felt hope for the future. 3 weeks later, Lauren's trial began. Harrison took the stand and testified about everything he'd witnessed during his time as Henry Walsh. The jury listened with growing horror as he described the bruises, the rough handling, the cruel words. Destiny testified too, her voice steady as she recounted the threats, the intimidation, the way Lauren had targeted her for protecting the children. She presented the evidence she'd collected, photos and notes documenting incidents. Mrs. Rodriguez, Rosa and Antonio all testified as well, backing up everything Harrison and Destiny had said. The pattern was undeniable. Lauren's attorney tried to paint her as a victim of a jealous household staff and an overprotective father. But the evidence was too strong. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours before returning a guilty verdict on all counts. Lauren was sentenced to 2 years in prison, followed by 3 years of probation. She was also ordered to pay restitution and attend anger management classes. Most importantly, she was barred from ever having contact with Sophie or Thomas again. When the verdict was read, Harrison felt a weight lift from his shoulders. His children were safe. Justice had been served. They could finally move forward. That evening he took everyone out to dinner to celebrate. The entire household staff, Destiny and her sister Amara who'd driven up from college for the verdict, and of course Sophie and Thomas. They went to a family-friendly restaurant with bright lights and cheerful music, and for the first time in months, Harrison saw his children laughing freely without fear. Sophie ran up to Destiny and threw her arms around her waist. "You're staying forever now, right?" "Forever is a long time," Destiny said, smiling. "But yes, I'm staying." "Good. Because we need you." Later that night, after the children were asleep, Harrison walked Destiny and Amara back to the guest house. Amara, a poised young woman who looked a lot like her older sister, kept thanking him for the scholarship. "You've changed my life, Mr. Bennett. I can actually focus on my studies now instead of worrying about how to pay tuition. I can't thank you enough." "You can thank me by becoming an excellent nurse," Harrison said. "The world needs more people like you and your sister." After Amara went inside, Harrison and Destiny stood on the porch in the cool evening air. Over the past 3 weeks, they'd fallen into an easy routine. Destiny took care of the children during the day while Harrison worked. In the evenings, they'd have dinner together with Sophie and Thomas, then spend time talking after the kids went to bed. They'd been taking things slowly, getting to know each other properly. Harrison had learned that Destiny had a beautiful singing voice and she'd perform little concerts for the children. Destiny had learned that Harrison was actually funny when he relaxed, with a dry sense of humor that caught her off guard. And gradually, the hurt from his initial deception had faded. Destiny understood now why he'd done what he did, and she respected him for taking such drastic action to protect his children. "Thank you for being there today," Harrison said. "I know testifying was hard. It was necessary. Lauren needed to face consequences. Still, you were brave." Destiny looked up at him, and in the porch light, her eyes were soft. "I had a good teacher in bravery. You went undercover in your own house. That took courage too. I was terrified the whole time. Terrified I'd be discovered, terrified of what I'd find, terrified I was too late. But you weren't too late. You saved them. We saved them. Together." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Destiny said, "Harrison, can I ask you something?" "Always." "What happens now? With us, I mean. We've been dancing around this for weeks." Harrison's heart started racing. "What do you want to happen?" "I want to know if this is real. What we're feeling. Or if it's just gratitude and adrenaline from everything we've been through." "It's real," Harrison said firmly. "At least for me." I thought about this a lot, and I know the difference between gratitude and actual feelings. Destiny, I'm falling in love with you. Destiny's breath caught. Harrison. I know it's complicated. I know we have to think about the children and your position as their nanny. I know people might judge us because of the class difference. But I don't care about any of that. I care about you. About your kindness and strength. About the way you make me laugh. About how you see the best in people. About how you make my children feel safe and loved. I care about all of it. Tears were sliding down Destiny's cheeks. I'm falling in love with you too. I tried not to. I kept telling myself it was just because you saved my sister's education and gave me this wonderful job. But it's more than that. You see me, Harrison. Really see me. Not as the help or as someone beneath you, but as an equal. And that means everything. Harrison reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. But she didn't. His hand cupped her cheek, his thumb wiping away her tears. Can I kiss you? Yes, she whispered. Their kiss was gentle and sweet, full of promise and hope. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. So what now? Destiny asked. Now we take it one day at a time. We keep being honest with each other. We make sure Sophie and Thomas are comfortable with this. We build something real together. I'd like that. Me too. Over the next few months, Harrison and Destiny's relationship deepened. They were careful to maintain appropriate boundaries in front of the children at first, not wanting to confuse them. But Sophie and Thomas were more perceptive than they'd expected. One evening, Sophie asked innocently, "Daddy, do you love Destiny?" Harrison and Destiny exchanged glances. They'd decided to always be honest with the children. Yes, princess. I do. Good. Can she be our new mommy then? Whoa, let's not rush things, Destiny said gently. Your daddy and I are still figuring things out. But you love us, right? So much. More than you can imagine. And you love daddy? I do. Then you should be our mommy. That's how it works. Thomas nodded seriously. That's how it works. Harrison laughed, pulling both children into a hug. You two are something else. But Sophie, Thomas, we need to be careful. We need to make sure we're doing this right. Your mom was special and no one will ever replace her. We know, Sophie said. But mommy would want us to be happy. And Destiny makes us happy. Out of the mouths of babes, Harrison thought. 6 months after the trial, Harrison took Destiny on their first official date. Mrs. Rodriguez agreed to watch the children, and Harrison and Destiny went to a nice restaurant downtown. They talked and laughed and held hands across the table. I never thought my life would turn out like this, Destiny said. A year ago I was working 3 jobs and barely scraping by. Now I have a job I love, my sister is thriving in school, and I'm dating an amazing man. A year ago I was engaged to the wrong person and blind to my children's suffering, Harrison countered. Now I have my kids back and I'm with a woman who makes every day better. I'd say we both got lucky. Very lucky. After dinner they walked along the waterfront, watching the city lights reflect on the water. Harrison stopped and turned to face Destiny. I know we said we'd take things slow. And we have been. But Destiny, I want you to know that this isn't temporary for me. I'm in this for the long haul. I want a future with you. I want that too, Destiny said. I love you, Harrison. And I love your children. I can't imagine my life without all of you in it. Then don't imagine it. Stay with us. Not just as the nanny but as part of our family. Officially. Are you asking me to move into the main house? I'm asking you to let me court you properly. To give this relationship room to grow. And yes, eventually I'm going to ask you to marry me. But not yet. Not until you're ready. Not until we're both sure. Destiny smiled, that beautiful smile that made Harrison's heart skip. I'm pretty sure already. But I appreciate you wanting to do this right. You deserve everything done right. You deserve the world. I just want you. And Sophie. And Thomas. That's my world. They kissed under the stars and Harrison knew he'd found something precious. Something worth more than all his business success and money. He'd found love. Real, genuine love. And he was never letting it go. 9 months after the trial, Harrison's life had transformed completely. The mansion that had once felt cold and formal now rang with laughter and warmth. The changes weren't just physical, though there were plenty of those. Fresh flowers in every room, courtesy of the garden Harrison now tended himself on weekends. Bright artwork from Sophie's paintings hanging on the walls. Thomas's toy trucks lined up on special shelves built just for them. But the biggest changes were in the people themselves. Sophie was thriving in kindergarten, her confidence growing daily. She no longer flinched at raised voices or apologized constantly for small mistakes. Her teacher had commented on how joyful she was, how easily she made friends. Thomas was talking more, his vocabulary expanding as his fear diminished. He'd started preschool and loved it, coming home each day with stories about his adventures. His nightmares had stopped months ago. And Harrison himself had become a different kind of father. He'd cut back his hours at work, promoting his assistant to VP so he could focus more on his family. He made breakfast most mornings now, his pancakes much improved with practice. He attended every school event, every parent-teacher conference. He read bedtime stories and helped with homework and built elaborate truck roads with Thomas. But the biggest change was in his relationship with Destiny. They'd grown closer with each passing day, their love deepening as they built a life together. Destiny had moved into the main house 3 months ago, taking the suite next to the children's rooms. They still maintained separate bedrooms, wanting to set a good example for Sophie and Thomas, but their relationship was serious and committed. Mrs. Rodriguez had become like a grandmother to the children, her devotion to the family even stronger now that fear no longer dominated the household. Rosa had been promoted to head housemaid and was dating Antonio's nephew, much to everyone's delight. Antonio himself had become Harrison's friend as well as his employee, the two men sometimes playing chess in the evenings while discussing everything from politics to philosophy. The household had become what Harrison had always wanted, a home full of love and safety and belonging. On a sunny Saturday afternoon in May, Harrison stood in the garden with Robert, nervously checking his pocket for the 10th time. "It's still there," Robert said, amused. "The ring hasn't disappeared in the last 30 seconds. I'm nervous." "You've faced hostile corporate takeovers with less anxiety. This is more important than any business deal." Robert clapped him on the shoulder. "She's going to say yes. Anyone can see how much she loves you. But what if it's too soon? What if she thinks I'm rushing things? Harrison, you've been together for 9 months. You're already living together. You've built a life together. The only thing missing is the official commitment." Harrison took a deep breath. "You're right. Okay. I'm doing this. Finally. I was starting to think you'd chicken out." Harrison had planned everything carefully. He'd arranged for Amara to come up from college for the weekend, telling Destiny it was just a regular visit. Mrs. Rodriguez had prepared Destiny's favorite meal. Rosa had decorated the back patio with fairy lights and flowers. Antonio had helped Harrison set up a special surprise in the garden. At 6 o'clock, Harrison asked Destiny to take a walk with him. Sophie and Thomas were with Amara in the playroom, giggling over some game. The evening air was warm and sweet with the scent of roses. "It's beautiful out here," Destiny said, taking Harrison's hand as they walked. "You've done amazing work with the garden. I had a good teacher. Henry Walsh learned a lot from watching the previous gardener." Destiny laughed. "Are you ever going to let that identity go?" "Never. Henry Walsh brought us together. I owe him everything." They walked to a spot Harrison had carefully prepared. A small clearing surrounded by blooming flowers with a bench facing the sunset. Strings of lights twinkled overhead. "Harrison, what is all this? Sit with me for a minute?" They sat on the bench and Harrison took both of her hands in his. His heart was pounding so hard he was sure she could hear it. "Destiny, 9 months ago you changed my life. You saved my children. You showed me what real courage looks like. You taught me to see people, really see them instead of looking past them. You made me want to be better." "Harrison, please let me finish. I know our relationship started in an unusual way. I know there are people who might judge us because of how we met or because of the class difference. But I don't care about any of that. What I care about is how you make me feel. How you make my children feel. How you've turned this house into a home." Tears were already forming in Destiny's eyes. "I love you," Harrison continued. "I love your strength and kindness. I love how you sing to the kids when you think no one is listening. I love how you make me laugh. I love how you challenge me to be better. I love everything about you." He slid off the bench and onto one knee. Destiny's hands flew to her mouth. "Destiny Turner, will you marry me? Will you officially become part of this family? Will you let me spend the rest of my life loving you and trying to deserve you?" He pulled the ring from his pocket. It was a simple but beautiful diamond on a platinum band, elegant and timeless, just like Destiny herself. Destiny was crying now, happy tears streaming down her face. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." Harrison slipped the ring onto her finger, and then he was standing, pulling her into his arms, kissing her as the fairy lights twinkled overhead and the last rays of sunlight painted the sky in shades of pink and gold. When they finally pulled apart, they heard cheering. Harrison turned to see Sophie, Thomas, and Amara standing at the edge of the garden, all three jumping up and down with excitement. Behind them, Mrs. Rodriguez, Rosa, and Antonio were applauding. "You knew?" Destiny asked, laughing through her tears. "Daddy asked us if it was okay," Sophie said, running over. "We said yes immediately. We want you to be our mommy for real," Thomas added, wrapping his arms around Destiny's legs. Destiny knelt down and hugged both children. "I love you both so much." "We love you too," Sophie said. "Forever and ever." Amara came over, her own eyes wet with tears. "I'm so happy for you, sis. You deserve this. You deserve all the happiness in the world." They all walked back to the house together, where Mrs. Rodriguez had laid out a celebration dinner. Champagne for the adults, sparkling cider for the kids. Destiny's favorite meal of herb-roasted chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, and fresh green beans. And for dessert, a cake that Rosa had secretly baked, decorated with "Congratulations Harrison and Destiny" in flowing script. As they ate and laughed and celebrated, Harrison looked around the table at his family. His children healthy and happy. His fiancée, the woman who'd saved them all. His loyal staff who'd become friends. Amara, who'd become like a little sister to him. This was what mattered. This was what success really looked like. Not money or status or business deals, but love and connection and people who cared about each other. After dinner, while the adults lingered over coffee and the children played nearby, Destiny leaned her head on Harrison's shoulder. "I can't believe this is my life now." "Believe it? This is just the beginning." "What do you mean?" "I mean we have a whole future ahead of us. A wedding to plan. A life to build. Maybe, if you want, more children someday." Destiny smiled. "I'd like that. Sophie and Thomas could use some siblings. And you'll be an amazing mother to them all." "You're already an amazing mother to Sophie and Thomas," Mrs. Rodriguez said from across the table. "Those children are blessed to have you." "We're all blessed," Harrison said. "Destiny took a broken family and helped make it whole again." "You did that too," Destiny insisted. "You're the one who refused to accept that everything was fine when your instincts said otherwise. You're the one who took action. You're the one who protected your children. We protected them together. That's what family does." Later that night, after everyone had gone to their rooms and the house was quiet, Harrison found Destiny standing in the children's doorway, watching them sleep. He came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "Happy?" he whispered. "More than I ever thought possible." They stood there for a moment, watching the gentle rise and fall of Sophie and Thomas's breathing. Then they went to their separate rooms, though not for much longer. After the wedding, Destiny would move into the master bedroom with Harrison. They'd be a family in every sense of the word. The wedding took place 3 months later in the garden where Harrison had proposed. It was a small ceremony, just close friends and family. Sophie was the flower girl, taking her job very seriously. Thomas was the ring bearer, proudly carrying the rings on a small pillow. Amara was Destiny's maid of honor, beautiful in a lavender dress. Robert was Harrison's best man, grinning throughout the entire ceremony. Mrs. Rodriguez, Rosa, and Antonio sat in the front row, beaming with pride. When the minister asked if anyone objected, Thomas shouted, "No one better. We want Destiny to be our mommy." Everyone laughed and the minister smiled. "I think that settles that." When Harrison and Destiny exchanged vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the garden. They'd written their own vows, promising to love and support each other, to raise Sophie and Thomas together, to build a life based on honesty and respect and genuine care. "I promise to always see you," Harrison said. "To never take you for granted. To remember that you are the heart of this family." "I promise to trust you," Destiny said. "To be your partner in everything. To love your children as my own. To build a home filled with laughter and safety and love." When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Harrison kissed Destiny as their children cheered and their friends applauded. It was a perfect moment, the beginning of a perfect life together. At the reception, which was held on the back patio under the fairy lights, Harrison gave a toast. "A year ago I thought I had everything. Success, wealth, a perfect life. But I was wrong. I had a beautiful house, but it wasn't a home. I had children, but I wasn't really present in their lives. I was sleepwalking through my own life, missing what really mattered." He looked at Destiny, who was wiping tears from her eyes. "Then everything fell apart. I discovered that the woman I planned to marry was hurting my children. I discovered that I'd been blind to what was happening in my own home. And I made a crazy decision to go undercover as a gardener to find the truth." People laughed and Harrison smiled. "It was the best decision I ever made. Because it led me to discover not just the truth about Lauren, but the truth about what really matters. Family." Well, kindness. And it led me to discover Destiny, the most courageous, loving person I've ever known. He raised his glass. To my wife who saved my family. To my children who are the light of my life. To everyone here who supported us through the difficult times and celebrated with us in the good times. Thank you all for being part of our story. To family, everyone chorused, raising their glasses. As the evening wore on and the party continued, Harrison danced with his new wife under the stars. Sophie and Thomas danced nearby, occasionally crashing into their legs and making them laugh. Amara danced with Antonio's nephew. Mrs. Rodriguez and Rosa swayed to the music while Antonio took photos to capture every moment. "This is perfect," Destiny whispered. "Everything is perfect." "Not perfect," Harrison said, "but real. And real is so much better. I love you. I love you too. Always." As they danced, Harrison thought about the journey that had brought them here. The pain, the fear, the deception, the discovery. All of it had been necessary to reach this moment. All of it had been worth it. He'd gone undercover in his own house expecting to discover his fiancée's cruelty. What he'd found instead was so much more. He'd found the truth about what really mattered. He'd found the courage to fight for his children. He'd found loyal friends in his staff. And most importantly, he'd found love with a woman who saw past his money and status to the person underneath. Destiny had started as a stranger, become a guardian angel to his children, and ended up as the love of his life. She taught him that real worth had nothing to do with bank accounts or business success. Real worth was measured in kindness, courage, and love. And as they danced together under the fairy lights, surrounded by their family and friends, Harrison knew that he was the richest man in the world. Not because of his money but because of the love that surrounded him. The hidden truth in the garden had been revealed. And that truth had set them all free. Years later, when Sophie and Thomas were older, they would ask their parents to tell them the story of how Harrison and Destiny fell in love. And every time, Harrison would start the same way. Once upon a time, a father was so worried about his children that he disguised himself as a gardener. And in that garden, he found not just the truth he was looking for, but also the love of his life. And Destiny would add, smiling, and they all lived happily ever after. Because kindness, hope, and love always lead us home. The children would nod, satisfied, never quite understanding how much pain and courage had been required to reach that happy ending. But that was okay. They didn't need to understand the darkness to appreciate the light. Because now in the Bennett household there was only light. Laughter echoing through the halls. Children running safely through rooms that had once been filled with fear. A mother and father who loved each other and their children with everything they had. Mrs. Rodriguez often said that the house itself seemed happier now, as if the walls could feel the difference between performance and authenticity, between control and love. And maybe she was right. Maybe homes did absorb the emotions of the people within them. Maybe the mansion had been waiting all along for the right family to fill it with genuine warmth. Harrison had learned that sometimes you have to lose yourself to find yourself. He'd become Henry Walsh, a humble gardener, and in doing so, he discovered who Harrison Bennett was supposed to be. Not just a successful businessman but a devoted father. Not just a wealthy man but a person who valued character over status. Not just an employer but a friend. And Destiny had learned that love could find you in the most unexpected places. That princes didn't always wear crowns. That sometimes the person who needed saving was also the person who would save you. Together they built something beautiful. A family forged not by blood alone but by choice. By sacrifice. By the decision to show up every day and choose love, even when it was difficult. As the wedding reception wound down and guests began to leave, Harrison and Destiny stood at the door, thanking everyone for coming. Sophie and Thomas had long since fallen asleep, carried to their beds by Antonio. Amara was staying the night before driving back to school in the morning. Mrs. Rodriguez and Rosa were already cleaning up, despite Harrison's protest that they should rest. Finally, it was just Harrison and Destiny, standing on the porch in the quiet night air, watching the fairy lights twinkle in the garden. "Ready to start our new life, Mrs. Bennett?" Harrison asked. Destiny smiled, leaning into his embrace. "I think we already started it. This is just the next chapter. The best chapter." Agreed. They walked through their home, turning off lights and checking on the children one last time. Sophie was curled up with her favorite stuffed animal, a small smile on her sleeping face. Thomas was sprawled across his bed, one arm hanging off the side, completely relaxed and safe. "They're going to be okay," Destiny whispered. "Better than okay. They're going to thrive. Because of you. Because of us. We're a team now, remember?" Harrison kissed her forehead. Best team I've ever been on. As they headed to their bedroom, Harrison thought about how far they'd all come. From fear to safety. From lies to truth. From brokenness to wholeness. It hadn't been easy, and there had been moments when he'd wondered if they'd ever recover from what Lauren had done. But they had recovered. They'd done more than survive. They'd flourished. And that was the real magic of their story. Not that a rich man had fallen for his employee. Not that a disguise had revealed hidden truths. But that broken people had found each other and, through love and patience and unwavering commitment, had made each other whole. The hidden truth in the garden wasn't just about Lauren's cruelty. It was about the power of love to transform everything it touches. It was about second chances and new beginnings. It was about finding home in the most unexpected places. Harrison Bennett had gone undercover thinking he was on a mission to save his children. What he'd discovered was that sometimes, when you set out to save someone, you end up saving yourself. And as he fell asleep that night with his wife in his arms, his children safe down the hall, and his heart full of gratitude, Harrison knew that every difficult moment had been worth it. Because kindness, hope, and love had led them home. And they were finally truly home.